So the Middle East has had a rather interesting year. We've seen obviously the oil price falls, which has hurt some economies, and then we've obviously got ongoing conflicts. James, I mean, can you give us a sort of broad overview of how this has impacted on the banks in the top 1,000?
Sure, Brian. Well, as you mentioned, obviously the economies of the region have been hit quite hard by the fall in oil prices. But on the whole, the banking sector has performed relatively well compared to other regions globally. Tier 1 capital for the Middle East is up about 13% in this year's rankings, and that's been driven in large parts by lenders from the GCC, as has often been the case in previous rankings. The picture is a bit more mixed, however, when we look at the performance of some banks in the Levant region of the Middle East.
Because they must be finding it quite hard to do business, you know, when you've got economic slowdown and also conflict in the region.
Exactly. So you see lenders like Arab Bank in Jordan, for example, have seen a marginal reduction in Tier 1 capital. Basically, the Jordanian economy is obviously very exposed to a number of regional problems.
And what about profitability overall?
So we've seen, again, in relative terms, Middle Eastern banks have performed very well compared to other global regions, but actually profitability is now declining somewhat. If you look at
from very high levels.
From very high levels, exactly. If you look at markets like Qatar and Saudi Arabia, which have traditionally been very strong, it's now more of a mixed picture. There are some very strong performers and some weaker entries as well. So it's beginning to moderate somewhat from previous years.
And what about the performance of some of the Middle East banks in the main global ranking? Because, I mean, although it's a difficult year in the Middle East, it's been a difficult year in most places. So they're competing against people who are also struggling, yes?
That's right. So we've seen actually some very impressive gains from the Middle East in terms of the global ranking. We've seen Saudi Arabia's National Commercial Bank and Qatar's Qatar National Bank move into the top 90 banks globally, which is obviously very impressive. And another notable gain was from the National Bank of Abu Dhabi, which is now in the top 5 banks in the Middle East region for Tier 1 capital.
And what about the regional push of the Gulf banks in particular? I mean, are they still pushing ahead with that, or have they decided in terms of the slowdown that they want to kind of just consolidate and see where they are?
In the last 6 months or so, we have seen a few big headline moves from Middle Eastern lenders. We've seen Qatar National Bank buy into Turkey. Before that, they bought obviously into Ecobank in Africa. So we're still seeing this general push outwards into higher growth markets. That still seems to be the case today.
Okay. Lots of activity in the Middle East. Thank you very much, James.